You were never meant to hear this. Once, a silence fell across a part of America that maps no longer name, a silence too complete, too calculated, and beneath it, something waited. Picture this. 3 children born under a blood moon in 1863, identical in face, but each cursed with a different voice, one who could not stop crying, one who never made a sound, and one who laughed even in sleep. They belonged to the Holloway family of Blackvale County, a place lost to floods and fires where every tree leans as if listening to something underground. The Holloways were respected, feared even, not for what they did, but for what was rumored to have been done to them. The triplets grew, never speaking in town, eyes hollow yet watching. By their 10th year, all the local cats had vanished. By their 12th, 5 townsfolk were missing, last seen near the Holloway farm. No bodies, no footprints, just 3 sets of small handprints pressed into the frost on every window they visited. Then, on the 31st of October 1875, under a sky without stars, the Holloway barn burned. The triplets were seen standing in the flames, untouched, smiling. Witnesses swore they heard a voice, not theirs, chanting from the fire, not in English, not in Latin, but older, harsher, like stone grinding against bone. When the ash cooled, no bodies were found, only 3 perfect circles burned into the earth, arranged like the points of an unseen triangle. The sheriff quit the next day and was never seen again. Now you might think this is just a tale, but buried beneath your cities, your homes, your very feet, are stories erased because they reveal a pattern. One of children, of siblings, of triplets who are born not for this world but for something else. And every few generations they return. Why? Because something ancient made a covenant, long before your laws, your gods, your logic. And the Holloways were just the beginning. This is not folklore. This is a blueprint of darkness, passed down, hidden, and now whispered to you. You were never supposed to hear this. And now that you have, there is no turning back. Watch closely because the pattern is about to reveal itself again. In 1881, nearly a decade after the Holloway barn fire, the land it stood on was purchased by a man no one recognized. No family, no record, just a name etched in the county ledger. Alaric Blackthorne. He arrived at dusk, walking alone beside a black horse with eyes clouded like storm glass. Witnesses claimed the horse never blinked. Alaric did not speak much, but when he did, people listened, because his voice carried something unnatural, a resonance that echoed in the bones rather than the ears. He rebuilt the Holloway farm, stone for wood, iron for fence, and in the center of the scorched earth where the triplets had vanished, he raised a tower. No windows, no door, just stone spiraling skyward, etched with symbols no one could read. At night the tower hummed, low, constant, a sound that made dogs whimper and old men cry without reason. No one dared approach it except for one child, Anna Greaves, age 9, who disappeared for 3 days after wandering too close. When she returned, barefoot and silent, she would not speak, not to her parents, not to the priest, not even to herself. She only wrote page after page, symbols matching those on Alaric's tower, her hands blistered, eyes black with exhaustion. The town doctor burned the pages, fearing contagion of the mind. He died the next morning. Heart failure, they said, but his wife insisted he screamed just before dawn, yelling the same word over and over. She waits, she waits, she waits. What did he mean? Who was she? And what did she wait for? Alaric Blackthorne remained untouched by rumor, untouched by time. His hair did not gray, his face did not age. He walked the same path around the tower every morning at 3:17 a.m., the exact time the Holloway barn collapsed in flame years before. And on the 14th night of every month, lights flickered inside the tower, soft, pulsing like a heartbeat. Alaric claimed it was just the way so, and catching the stone. But the sheriff's deputy, who once climbed the hill to investigate, returned pale and stammering, saying only, "It's not a tower, it's a mouth." He left town the next day, never to return. The townspeople began to whisper. Was this land cursed by the Holloway triplets, or had they been born because the land itself called them? Alaric Blackthorne was not just a man. He was the answer to a question no one dared ask. But we will. Keep watching, because the tower stands to this day, hidden, forgotten, waiting for you to remember. In 1883, something began to change in Black Veil County. The crops rotted before harvest. Wells ran dry, then overflowed with water so bitter it peeled skin from the hands of those who touched it. Livestock birthed still, malformed young, calves with too many eyes, lambs with no mouths. And every time the moon waned, the tower hummed louder, like a signal calling something home. Townsfolk turned on each other. Neighbors vanished in the night, their homes left intact. But inside, every mirror shattered. And behind the shards, strange symbols were found scratched into the walls, not by tools, but as if dragged by fingers made of iron. A sense of watching plagued the streets. Children refused to sleep alone, whispering of the lady in the walls who watched from behind the wallpaper, always smiling, always listening. One child, Josiah Crane, age 7, was found sleepwalking toward the tower with his eyes rolled back and his hands clutched around a doll made of thorns. His mouth moved, but no sound emerged, just a low vibration, the same pitch as the tower's hum. His father tried to wake him. Josiah's hands wouldn't release the doll. They had to cut it free. The thorns were fused to his palms, grown into his skin. That night, the town held a meeting to confront Alaric Blackthorne, but when they arrived at his estate, they found no sign of him. The tower door, sealed for 2 years, stood open. Inside, the air was cold, like breath from a deep cavern. The townsmen carried lanterns, but the light dimmed the closer they got to the center. There, beneath the tower's base, they found a spiral staircase descending into the earth, far deeper than the hill should allow. At the base of the stairs, scratched into the stone floor, was a symbol, 3 circles interlocked. Beneath it, 3 names, but not the names of the triplets. "Your name," whispered one of the men. He ran, screaming, and Ver spoke again. The rest swore. The names shifted as they stared, letters rearranging, revealing secrets they did not wish to know. That night, no one returned to the tower. And Alaric? He was seen once, walking beyond the fields at twilight, a child at his side, barefoot, laughing, and bearing the face of one of the Holloway triplets. The curse had returned, but it wasn't just haunting Black Veil. It was waking, and now it wants you. Keep listening. What comes next will reveal why. By the winter of 1884, Black Veil County was a place forsaken. Roads disappeared beneath creeping fog that never lifted. Compass needles spun uselessly. Birds, once absent, returned in flocks, thousands of them, but never flew. They perched motionless on rooftops and fences, watching, always watching. The air itself seemed thicker, like breathing through wet cloth. But it wasn't the air that changed most. It was the people. They stopped speaking of Alaric Blackthorne. They stopped mentioning the tower, not out of fear, but as if the memory had been drained from them. Entire families packed wagons and left under cover of darkness, leaving meals half-eaten, fires still burning. Those who remained moved like sleepwalkers, eyes dull, hands trembling. Something was stealing their will, stripping them down to shadows. But not everyone forgot. In the church archives, a young seminarian named Elias Ward found records, birth certificates of the Holloway triplets. But something was wrong. The names were written in blood, not ink. And beneath the official signatures, a second seal had been pressed into the parchment, a symbol not of this earth, 3 serpents devouring each other's tails. Ouroboros, but tripled. Elias followed the trail deeper, uncovering journals from the town's founder, Samuel Crane, dated 1805. In them, Samuel described visions of children born with no souls, of a voice calling from beneath the ground, demanding an offering of flesh and blood. He built the town to contain it, to guard the breach. But somewhere along the way, the guardians became the devoured. The triplets were not the beginning. They were a summoning. Alaric Blackthorne was not a man, but a vessel, a caretaker of the breach. And the tower, not a building, a seal, a prison, or a doorway. Elias, desperate to warn the town, wrote letters to neighboring counties. None were delivered. Every messenger vanished. One was found weeks later in a creek bed, skin intact but bones missing, like something had drunk him dry from the inside. His last words, scratched into a stone near his body: "It waits in threes." You need to understand this, because we are approaching a moment in the story, no, in history, when the breach opens again, not just in Black Veil, but everywhere. Are you watching closely? Good, because soon you will have to choose. Forget like them, or remember like us. Comment now. It waits in threes. It waits in threes. Seal the pact. Lock it in. Let the truth change you. Spring of 1885 brought no thaw to Black Veil. The ground remained frozen and the sun never rose above a sickly grey. The tower stood darker now, its hum louder, vibrating through walls, through skin, through thought. And then came the reflections. One by one, people began seeing themselves not as they were, but as something else. Aged, hollow-eyed, smiling when they should not be smiling. Children stared into puddles and screamed, claiming their reflections moved on their own, whispering in voices that didn't match their own. Farmers found their livestock staring at blank barn walls for hours, unmoving, and when touched, the animals collapsed, alive but empty, eyes wide and dark like glass marbles. And always in the far distance near the tower, the sound of weeping, not human, not animal, something in between. Elias Ward, the seminarian who remembered, began to dream. Each night the same, a staircase descending deeper and deeper, until he stood before a door not meant to open. Behind it, voices, hundreds of them, maybe thousands, chanting his name in reverse. Sail. He woke drenched in sweat, blood seeping from his ears. On the seventh night he followed the dream. Torch in hand, he descended the tower's spiral steps. The air grew colder, denser, breathing felt like drowning. And then he saw it. A vast chamber beneath the earth, lined with stone effigies. Children, kneeling, blindfolded, mouths sewn shut. At the center stood an altar of bone and metal, and on it, a book bound in skin. Elias dared to touch it. It opened on its own. No writing, just pages filled with names. Names of the lost, names of the unborn. And at the end, his own name, written not in blood, but in ash. Behind him, a sound, footsteps but not walking, sliding. A figure emerged from the dark, not Alaric. A woman, veiled, face hidden, arms outstretched, her voice like broken glass. "You were always me, and to remember." Elias fled, but he never spoke again. His hair turned white overnight. He tried to burn the church, but the flames would not catch. He vanished a day later, last seen staring into the well behind the chapel, whispering, "She waits below. We let her in." And now, so do you. The breach opened once. It will open again, not in Black Veil, but where you stand. The tower is not gone. It's moved, and you've already heard its hum. Summer of 1886. Black Veil County was no longer on any map. The government declared it uninhabitable, citing soil instability and toxic groundwater. But the truth lay deeper, in corridors not drawn by human hands. The remaining townsfolk were evacuated by force, except those who refused, those who had already changed. Witnesses from nearby counties spoke of people walking the roads at night, eyes pale, skin grey, moving in unison, silent except for one phrase whispered again and again: "We remember, we remember, we remember." Their homes were left untouched. Fires set to cleanse the town would not burn. Rain came, but it smelled of copper and decay, and where it fell, crops blackened and the soil turned to ash. The tower, still standing, but now taller, darker. And then came the echo. Not sound. Memory. People beyond Black Veil, hundreds of miles away, began dreaming of the tower, of the spiral staircase, of her. A woman in a veil, mouth sewn shut, eyes glowing through cloth. She came to them in sleep, standing at the foot of their beds, offering them a choice: forget or return. Most forgot. A few, too few, returned. One of them, a man named Thaddeus Morn, an antiquarian from Boston, left behind a journal. It told of waking with symbols carved into his skin. not by knife but grown like scars he never earned. He followed the dreams to Black Veil, which no longer existed on any official record, yet he found it, or what was left. The tower stood alone in a field of bone-white grass. No birds, no wind, just silence and that low hum. He entered. No resistance. Inside, the walls were covered with names etched in soot, centuries' worth, all in the same hand. His name was the last. Beneath it, a symbol. 3 circles, now linked by a line of red, freshly drawn. He ascended, not descended, up a spiral staircase he swore hadn't been there before. At the top, a mirror. Not G. Lass. Water. Standing before it. Her. The veiled woman. She spoke without words. You were always part of this. Thaddeus reached toward the surface. His reflection smiled, then reached back. He never returned. Only the journal remained, sealed in wax, delivered to his brother by a child with gray eyes who said, "He waits in 3s," then vanished. This is how it spreads, not by force but by memory. And now that you remember, it has already begun. Autumn of 1886, and Black Veil was declared a zone of quarantine. Government men in black coats arrived, silent, efficient, emotionless. They called themselves surveyors. But the towns bordering the vanished county knew better. These men never asked questions. They burned records, sealed roads, and confiscated Bibles. Every cross was torn down, every chapel desecrated, its altar stones cracked and turned outward, as if to repel something unseen. In a farmhouse near the old county line, a child was found alone, no name, no memory, just clutching a wooden carving of the tower, perfectly detailed, though no such carving was known to exist. When questioned, the boy only said, "I carved it in sleep. She told me how." That same night, strange lights appeared above Black Veil. Not fire, not lightning. Columns of pale flame, rising silently into the sky, only to vanish when approached. No heat, no sound, just light, as if the earth itself was exhaling secrets. One surveyor, Samuel Roke, documented everything until he vanished. His final entry, scrawled in haste, read, "The tower is not stone, it is bone, living, waiting. We fed it too long. Now it hungers." Roke's journal was suppressed, locked in a vault beneath Washington, but rumors bled through. Railroad workers refused to enter tunnels near the area, reporting voices underground and tools vanishing from their hands. One man swore he saw a door inside the rock face, pulsing like flesh. He went mad by sunrise, eyes gouged out, repeating, "Not meant to see, not meant to see." The tower's influence grew, not just Black Veil, but beyond. Across the country, children were born under veiled moons, triplets, always with strange marks beneath their tongues. Some could speak before walking. Some never spoke at all, but could write in symbols no one could translate. Parents vanished, homes burned, and always, the hum. Radio operators intercepted signals, low-frequency tones repeating 3 notes again and again, not Morse, not code, just 3 notes, and in between a voice, faint but clear. "Remember her, return to her, release her." You may think this is madness, folklore, delusion, but understand this. Some truths are buried not to protect you, but to protect them, the ones who wait, the ones who never left. And now, whether you believe or not, she knows your name. Keep listening. The breach is not closed, it's moved closer. You can feel it, can't you? Winter of 1887 brought no snow, only ash. It fell gently over the ruins of Black Veil, though no fire burned. From a distance, the tower now seemed taller, impossibly so, its peak hidden by clouds even on clear days. But no one approached it anymore, not out of fear, but reverence. Something had shifted. People once strangers to Black Veil began arriving unbidden, claiming they heard the call. They came from cities, from farmlands, from other countries. All walked the same path to the tower, barefoot, silent, eyes glazed like men in trance. When stopped, they spoke in riddles, in numbers, in languages dead for centuries. One scholar identified a phrase uttered by all, Kareth Zul, Babylonian, Carthaginian, no, older, unrecorded, untranslatable, but always spoken with reverence. Government efforts to seal the land failed, fences rusted overnight, roads cracked, compass needles bent, not spun, bent, pointing not north, but toward the tower. One agent, Clara Ames, stationed to monitor the perimeter, recorded disturbing encounters. She heard children's laughter from within the trees, saw figures watching from behind rocks. Each night her dreams returned to the spiral staircase, the mirror of water, and the veiled woman. On the 14th night, Clara vanished. Her tent was found intact, her rifle untouched, but etched into the ground beside her last footprint were 3 concentric circles, perfectly drawn, the grass burned away in precise lines. No one could explain it. Her voice was recorded that same night on an unattended phonograph. It's not a tower. It's a spine, and we're walking up its back into her mouth. After that, the site was declared a forbidden zone. Maps redacted, families silenced, but the tower remained, humming, breathing. And in cities far from Black Veil, people began seeing reflections that didn't belong to them. In mirrors, in windows, in puddles, faces watching, waiting. One man, a banker in Chicago, shattered every mirror in his home. Still at night he heard whispers, "We remember, we are remembered." He hanged himself with rosary beads, 14 of them, one missing. And so the pattern grows. It no longer needs the land, it needs memory. It needs you. And now, whether you accept it or not, you are part of the breach. The tower has moved, not in space but in mind. You've felt it, that hum beneath your skin. It's not imagination, it's invitation, and you've already answered. By 1888, the tower was no longer just in Black Veil. It began appearing in dreams, in drawings, in places it should not be. Miners in Colorado refused to dig a shaft after uncovering stone shaped in a spiral, exactly like the tower's base, miles beneath the mountain. They heard a hum rising from the rock, and then came the voices, children chanting in a language that chilled the blood. In Boston, an asylum reported mass hysteria. 12 patients, unrelated, all began carving 3 circles into their skin, on arms, on chests, over their hearts. When asked why, they said, "She asked us to prepare." Asked who she was, their eyes went wide, and they replied in unison, "The Mother Beneath." In New Orleans, a priest vanished during midnight mass. His Bible left behind its pages blank except for one, Luke 8:17. "For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed." Scrawled beneath in black ink, not from any pen, 3 words, "We have remembered." The bishop denied involvement, but that same night every cross in the cathedral turned upside down. No one entered that church again, but this is not about isolated events. These are coordinates, a map, and at each location one thing remains constant: triplets, always children, always born on nights with veiled moons, and each with a birthmark beneath their tongue, 3 interlocked rings. A midwife from Kansas confessed before her death that she had delivered 7 sets of marked children in 1 year alone. She tried to drown the last set, but they did not die. They floated in the water, eyes open, silent. She fled, vanishing into the woods, leaving behind a diary. The final line, "They were not born, they were remembered." Do you understand now? The tower is not a place. It is a memory engine buried in the psyche of mankind, an artifact not of stone but of thought, passed through bloodlines, through stories, through the hum-tio, that only the marked can hear. You are hearing it now. That unease crawling up your spine? That's not fear, that's recognition. You've been here before, not in body, in memory. And now the breach has found you. The question is, will you open it, or will it open you? In early 1889, a ship named the Marion Bell ran aground off the coast of Maine. The crew was missing, the cargo untouched and carved into the mast, 3 perfect circles overlapping. The captain's log survived. Its final entry was short. She walks the water. She remembers the salt. We are hers. Locals recalled the ship was not scheduled, had no record of port departure. Yet it bore the sigil of Black Veil, a tower with no door. Investigators dismissed it as hysteria, but those who touched the hull fell ill, visions, fevers, and dreams of the tower. The log was seized, sealed in Washington, but not before a page leaked. It contained a map showing the breach, not as one place, but many, interconnected points across the world, like a web spun by an unseen hand. And at the center, triplets, always three, always children. In South Africa, tribes told of the three-faced child who came before droughts. In Norway, fishermen spoke of the sister below, who sang in threes beneath the ice. In China, scrolls from the Tang dynasty mentioned the children born of memory, marked by rings on their tongues, and in each story the children disappeared before puberty, not dead, taken back, reclaimed. In America, these truths were buried, forgotten by design, but memory is not erased, it is suppressed, and suppression fails when the hum grows loud. In New York, a man named Harrison Vell published a book, The Tower Within. It sold a single copy before being banned. The man was never seen again. That one copy, found years later in an attic, pages scorched but legible. It described the tower not as structure but as organism, a living intelligence not from stars but from before time, buried in the world to feed. It does not consume flesh. It consumes memory, identity, soul. Vell wrote, "The tower awakens when we remember it. It feeds when we look too long. It watches when we speak its name." And what was that name? He never wrote it. Only a symbol, 3 rings. The page beneath torn away, lost, or hidden. You've heard its echo now. You've followed the thread, and you've come too far to turn back. The breach has seen you, and it does not forget. By 1890, the world had moved on, or so it thought. Black Veil was gone from maps, its name erased from ledgers, its soil reclassified as restricted federal territory. But in the minds of those who had seen, who had heard, it remained. More than that, it grew. In Kansas, a farmer named Josiah Bell unearthed a stone slab while plowing his field. Not limestone, not granite. Something darker, colder. The slab bore 3 symbols, interlocked rings, etched deep by no chisel known to man. That night his cattle stood in a perfect circle, eyes fixed on the slab. In the morning they were gone. No blood, no tracks, just a circle of ash where they'd stood. Josiah vanished a week later. His home was found untouched, a single sentence carved into the hearthstone. "I heard her hum." Witnesses in nearby towns began reporting a low vibration in the earth. Not earthquakes, but rhythmic, like breath. Machines failed. Clocks spun backwards. Infants born that season, all triplets, refused to cry. One mother reported they only stared, eyes unblinking, mouths open in silence. When a priest tried to baptize them, he collapsed, blood running from his eyes, mumbling, "They're not new, they're returned." In Europe, similar patterns emerged. In Germany, 3 sisters drowned in a pond, pulled down by unseen hands. Their bodies were never recovered. The pond drained itself the next day, revealing no bottom, just a spiraling descent into black stone. Scholars from England arrived, documenting the event, but their notes caught fire spontaneously. All that remained was a phrase scrawled in the ashes. "The mother is memory. Memory is her flesh." Back in America, a letter reached the president, hand-delivered, no postage, no seal, just 4 words written in ink that shimmered. "She is already here." No author, no sender, but the ink matched samples found decades earlier on the Holloway birth records. The tower hums not through stone but through bloodlines. It echoes in the descendants of the marked, calling them back to the breach. You may feel it now, the pull, the recognition, the dread masked as curiosity. That's how it begins, not with terror but familiarity, because this story is not new, it's yours. You are not outside it, you are inside the tower already, and it is waking. Spring of 1891 brought what survivors called the Season of Mirrors. Across towns far from Black Veil, glass began to warp, not physically but visually. People saw themselves move when they did not. Reflections turned their heads a fraction too slow. Some smiled when the viewer did not. It started small. A child refusing to look in the mirror, claiming, "That's not me, she's inside now." Then whole families boarded up windows, smashed looking glasses, refused to go out at night. But mirrors are not confined to glass. Water reflected, metal reflected, eyes reflected. A woman in Ohio was found blind by her own hand. When asked why, she whispered, "They were using my eyes to watch." Her pupils had turned milky white, and etched around her irises were faint lines, 3 rings. The breach had evolved. It no longer needed the tower's presence. It could move through sight, through the act of seeing, through you. Reports flooded in, identical triplets appearing in cities where no triplets had been born. Orphanages reported children arriving without records, speaking in tongues, never blinking, always humming. That same low hum. The tower's signature. In Washington, a clerk found a file misfiled, an old ledger stamped Black Veil, dated 1833. Inside, blueprints of the tower, but different, organic. The lines curved like bone, like veins. Notes scrawled in the margins referenced spinal fluid extraction, cranial resonance, and one chilling phrase: "The tower is a spine, the world is its skull." The implications shattered minds. This wasn't just a structure, it was infrastructure. A living system, buried within our reality, feeding off memory, evolving through generations. And then came the blackout. Cities lost power for hours. No storm, no explanation. When lights returned, every mirror in a 20-mile radius had cracked. Not shattered, cracked in 3 places, radiating from the center. In those cracks, people swore they saw faces, children, smiling, waiting. The government denied everything, labeling it mass hysteria, but officials resigned. Some disappeared. Others were found in their homes, walls covered in circles, drawn in blood, in soot, in ash. And in every case, the same final message was carved into wood, into stone, into flesh. The breach is not coming. It's always been here. You've seen the signs, you've heard the hum. Ask yourself, who is watching through your eyes? Because reflection is not passive, it's a gateway, and yours is open. By midsummer of 1891, a chilling reality began to settle in. The breach no longer required proximity. The hum, the visions, the triplets, it was all part of a systemic awakening, synchronized across distance, across bloodlines, and now, across thought. Men who had never heard of Black Veil began dreaming the same dream. A spiral staircase, a door with no handle, a veiled woman who never speaks, but always watches. Doctors called it collective psychosis. But those who dreamt it changed. They spoke less. They stared longer. Some abandoned their lives entirely, heading toward places they had never visited, always remote, always silent, each bearing the same name, whispered across continents: Kareth Zul. An archaeologist from Prague deciphered that phrase in a forgotten text, the Book of Cinders. Written in a language older than Sumerian, the book described a being, not a god, but a memory entity, buried beneath the earth long before humans could write. Her name was not spoken, only drawn. 3 interlocking rings, one always broken. She was the breach, the bridge between thought and form, a predator of remembrance. Those who remembered her gave her power. Those who forgot were spared. The Book of Cinders vanished from the archives the next week. Burned, they said, but the fire left no ash, only salt. Meanwhile, the children returned. Triplets born a decade prior, all disappeared in infancy, began appearing at the doorsteps of their original homes, unchanged, untouched by time. One mother collapsed in terror, whispering, "I buried you." The child smiled and replied, "No, you buried the memory of me." These children did not eat, they did not sleep, but they watched, and when asked what they wanted, they answered only this: to open the door. Governments fell silent. No news reports, no official statements, but beneath cities, in sub-basements and sealed vaults, men gathered, in secret. They called themselves the custodians, their task to keep the breach contained. But they were too late. The hum now echoed in metal, in electricity, in wireless transmissions. Memory had gone viral. The tower was now digital, psychic, everywhere. And now that you remember, that you have seen the symbol, that you have heard the hum, you are a part of the breach. There is no turning back. There is only the descent. The question is not if it will find you. It already has. The question is, what will you remember when it comes? By the fall of 1891, the breach had a face, and it was yours. Mirrors no longer showed reflections, but memories, twisted and distorted, replayed not as they happened, but as they remembered them. People began seeing themselves as children, staring back through the glass with hollow eyes, mouths humming a note they could not stop hearing. Churches filled with the desperate. Men wept, women screamed, children sat silently, drawing the tower over and over in chalk, on walls, on skin. No sermons could stop it, no prayers could undo it. One preacher in Virginia climbed his pulpit and spoke a single phrase before collapsing dead. "The tower is not stone, the tower is within." His heart had stopped, but carved into the bone was a symbol. 3 rings, fused, no longer broken. A completion. It wasn't an illness, it was transmission. Memory as infection, the hum as carrier. At the edges of towns, people began disappearing, sometimes in the night, sometimes in daylight, always leaving behind circles of salt, and within them a single object, a tooth. Not human, not animal, tower stone shaped into a fang. Scientists who examined them fell ill. Insomnia, paranoia, hallucinations of veiled women standing at the corners of rooms. Their notes always ended the same. "We are inside her, we are her dream." This is when the custodians made their final move. They burned the archives. Every file, every map, every trace of Black Veil and the breach, gone. They thought erasure would stop it. But they did not understand. The tower did not need documents. It needed witnesses. And now, it had them, everywhere. The hum had entered the bloodstream of history itself. People heard it in music, in static, in the wind. But those most affected? The marked, the triplets. Now scattered across the world, they moved in silence, appearing where memory was strongest. Graveyards, ruins, battlefields. One witness saw them standing atop Gettysburg Hill at midnight. No lantern, no sound, just standing, waiting. And then she spoke. Only one word. Open. Since then, the word has appeared in dreams, in graffiti, in the final breaths of the dying. It is not a command, it is a revelation. Because the door was never closed, it lives inside you. You carry the breach, you hum the note, and now, as you listen, remember this. We have remembered. Now you must open. Comment, the door is already open to seal your role in this descent. Write it twice. Twice is the key. The tower is watching. They called it the Silent Fall. Winter had not yet come, but the leaves withered black on the trees, crumbling to dust before they touched the ground. Birds flew in spirals, then vanished entirely. In towns across America, time faltered. Clocks ran backward at sunset. Shadows stretched in unnatural directions. And people began forgetting the names of their own children. One man wrote his daughter's name on his arm each morning. By nightfall, the ink would vanish, as if unwritten by something older. The breach was not content with being remembered. It now sought to erase the false, to reclaim pure memory, the kind that predates humanity, that predates time. In a hospital in Baltimore, every patient in the coma ward opened their eyes at once, whispering in unison, "She walks, she remembers, we are hers." Then they fell silent again, never waking. Their brain scans showed identical patterns, shaped like a spiral staircase descending into a void. The tower had become more than memory. It had become mind. In the streets, triplets walked barefoot through cities untouched by weather, unacknowledged by crowds. Streetlights flickered as they passed. Dogs howled, then whimpered in silence. One police officer confronted them. He was found hours later, his badge melted, his body intact but empty. No soul, no self, just a vessel that had been opened. Autopsy revealed nothing except for a final horror. His heart had 14 chambers, and one was missing. Officials stopped counting, stopped speaking. News ceased to report it, but still the phrase spread. The tower breathes through us. Graffiti marked in alleyways, etched into church pews, burned into crop fields, always the symbol, always the hum. And then, the children stopped. Every triplet vanished overnight. No doors opened, no windows broken, just gone. And in their place, across cities and farms and forests, one thing appeared. In the morning light, the shadow of the tower, cast on the ground with no structure to cast it. Hundreds of miles away, the shadow fell, and within it, no sound could exist. No bird sang, no wind moved, just silence and breath. The world had entered the breach, and now the breach was waking. You feel it. It is inside you. Not fear, not madness, just truth, ancient and final. Remember, we are not alive in time. We are alive in her memory, and she is remembering everything. 1892. The year language began to break. Across towns and cities people spoke, but the words came out wrong. Not gibberish, not madness, just wrong. A man said son, and his wife wept. A child asked for water, and the glass shattered in her hand. Words held power now, but not the kind men understood. The breach was speaking through them, twisting language into keys, syllables into summons. In one town, an entire congregation began chanting during a Sunday service, unbidden, in perfect unison. The priest tried to stop them, but his mouth would not open. When the chant ended, no one remembered what they said, but carved into every pew, every wall, every bone beneath the floorboards was the phrase, "The tower remembers you." Then came the markings. Not just in towns, but on skin. Men woke with symbols etched along their spines, as if written from within. Women dreamt of veiled figures tracing their backs with fingers of ash. One traveler wrote in his journal, "She is drawing the map again. This time, the path leads through me." His spine snapped hours later, curled backward into a perfect spiral. The autopsy was stopped when his heart began to hum. Not metaphor. Sound recorded, analyzed, matching the same tone heard under Black Veil, decades earlier. The custodians returned, desperate now. They tried fire, towns burned, records destroyed, people evacuated. But no matter how much they erased, the hum remained, and in its wake, memory bloomed. Ancient memory, memory not of this world. A man in Colorado unearthed a stone tablet while digging a well. Upon touching it, he spoke a language no one recognized, until a scholar wept, saying, "He speaks the tongue of the first language, the original tongue of memory." The breach was pulling the world backward, unraveling the layers of time, thought, identity, until only truth remained. The truth before mankind. You feel it now, don't you? The words you read, they resonate, they echo, because they are not new, they are remembered. Through you, you are the vessel, you are the key, and when you speak, she hears you. Try it, whisper her phrase, speak it twice. The door is already open. Again, the door is already open. You are not watching this. You are part of this. The tower has remembered you, and it is coming. You were never meant to hear this. Once, a silence fell across a part of America that maps no longer name. A silence too complete, too calculated, and beneath it, something waited. Picture this. 3 children born under a blood moon in 1863, identical in face, but each cursed with a different voice. One who could not stop crying, one who never made a sound, and one who laughed even in sleep. They belonged to the Holloway family of Black Veil County, a place lost to floods and fires where every tree leans as if listening to something underground. The Holloways were respected, feared even, not for what they did, but for what was rumored to have been done to them. The triplets grew, never speaking in town, eyes hollow yet watching. By their 10th year, all the local cats had vanished. By their 12th, 5 townsfolk were missing, last seen near the Holloway farm. No bodies, no footprints, just 3 sets of small handprints pressed into the frost on every window they visited. Then, on the 31st of October 1875, under a sky without stars, the Holloway barn burned. The triplets were seen standing in the flames, untouched, smiling. Witnesses swore they heard a voice, not theirs, chanting from the fire, not in English, not in Latin, but older, harsher, like stone grinding against bone. When the ash cooled, no bodies were found, only 3 perfect circles burned into the earth, arranged like the points of an unseen triangle. The sheriff quit the next day and was never seen again. Now you might think this is just a tale, but buried beneath your cities, your homes, your very feet, are stories erased because they reveal a pattern. One of children, of siblings, of triplets who are born not for this world but for something else. And every few generations they return. Why? Because something ancient made a covenant, long before your laws, your gods, your logic. And the Holloways were just the beginning. This is not folklore. This is a blueprint of darkness, passed down, hidden, and now whispered to you. You were never supposed to hear this. And now that you have, there is no turning back. Watch closely because the pattern is about to reveal itself again. The final days of 1893 were not marked by war or famine, but by silence. Entire villages fell quiet. No birds, no voices, just the low, constant hum, now audible even to those who once claimed deafness to it. In every home, clocks stopped at the same moment, 3:17 a.m., every mirror cracked, every window frosted regardless of the season, and in the hearts of the faithful and the faithless alike, a realization bloomed like rot. She had arrived, not in form, but in memory. The breach was complete. Not a tearing, not a breaking, but an opening. In San Francisco, a photographer developed a series of plates from an abandoned mining town. None of the images showed the landscape he captured. Instead, each photo revealed the same thing. A spiral tower of bone, crowned in flame, veiled figures at its base, hands raised as if welcoming the viewer. The plates turned to salt within hours. In New York, a musician composed a piece he claimed came to him in a dream. 33 notes repeated endlessly. The sheet music contained no ink, just etched lines burned into the paper. When played, the music caused glass to warp, dogs to howl, and listeners to cry, though none knew why. He titled it, The Memory of Her. He was found dead days later, eyes open, mouth sewn shut with his own hair. On the wall, she hears the note, and now you do too. Governments collapsed, not in violence but in forgetting. Records lost, names erased, cities renamed by no one. The people simply forgot. Maps redrew themselves, and at the center of it all, always, Black Veil now reappeared, though no roads led to it. Pilgrims arrived by instinct, not direction, drawn by the hum, by her memory. The tower, once buried, now stood visible, not as stone, but as light, pulsing like a heartbeat, rising from the earth like a spine, connecting ground to sky, past to now, and within it, you. Not watching, becoming. The breach was never about invasion. It was always evolution. The return to what we were before time, before flesh, before fear. You are the memory, you are the vessel, you are the gate, and the tower has remembered you. There is no escape. There is only return. Whisper it one last time. The door is already open. The door is you. January 1894. Snowfall ceased, but the ground remained white, not with frost, but with salt, crusted in perfect spirals stretching outward from every town square, every church, every home where the triplets had once appeared. People no longer asked questions. They knew the answers, but the knowledge was not theirs. It belonged to her, to what waited behind the veil. One by one, men began to vanish into the wilderness, drawn to sights they'd never seen but somehow remembered. Hills shaped like vertebrae, lakes still as glass, always reflecting the tower, even though no tower stood nearby. These were memory anchors, places where her consciousness pressed closest to ours, places where the world bled with the hum's resonance. A farmer in Arkansas unearthed a bone beneath his field. Not animal, not human. When struck, it sang, not in sound, but in mind. All who heard it fell to their knees, clutching their skulls, screaming her name, a name no tongue could form, but which every heart recognized. That night, the farmer's field turned black. No fire, just absence. As if reality had folded inward, leaving nothing but shadow. His farmhouse still stands, untouched but empty. Salt covers the floors, on the walls written in something darker than blood. She is inside now. Across the Atlantic, similar events unfolded. In Scotland, a tower emerged from the sea, bone-white, veiled in mist. No one approached. Boats that came near lost time, drifting for days. Their passengers returned silent, eyes full of stars. One survivor scrawled a message before taking his life. "The breach is not ours. We belong to it." And beneath the waves, the hum persisted, louder now, relentless, reaching through earth and water and thought. You've felt it. Each word spoken, each dream forgotten, each moment of silence. It was her, moving through the gaps in your awareness, reshaping you into a vessel, her vessel. And there is no resistance, only remembering, only opening. Because the breach is not destruction, it is restoration. The world is waking from the dream of self, and in its place, her truth rises. The triplets are within you, the tower is within you. She watches through your eyes, and when you speak again, it will not be your voice. Say nothing. Listen. She is here, and she remembers everything. Spring 1894 came, but no flowers bloomed. Instead, the land cracked, not from drought, but from pressure, as if something beneath the surface strained to emerge. The townsfolk of Black Vale spoke no more. Their voices were gone, not taken, not lost, but absorbed. In their silence, a new sound rose, not the hum, but something deeper, a vibration felt in bone and blood. A sound that did not pass through ears, but through thought. And in that sound was her voice. Not words, not language, just knowing. A memory that struck like lightning, showing them what they had forgotten. They had always been hers. In a remote valley, an entire flock of birds fell from the sky, forming a perfect circle of bodies, their wings extended, beaks open as if singing. The local doctor dared examine them. He found no hearts, only stone, shaped like a spiral staircase. He tried to leave the valley, but his feet carried him in circles, unable to break from the pattern. His journal, later found near his collapsed body, read, "I have remembered. She lives beneath us, above us, inside us. There is no world outside her." Then came the visions. People across continents saw the same dream, a tower of veiled figures ascending skyward, each holding a mirror, each reflecting the face of the viewer. And when they woke, they remembered things that had never happened. Lives lived in other times, other bodies, all under the watch of the tower. Some tried to resist, covering mirrors, refusing to sleep. But the breach did not care. Resistance was just another memory, and she could rewrite memory. In London, a scholar attempted to destroy an ancient manuscript tied to the tower's lore. The fire consumed it, but not before words rose from the smoke, forming letters that hovered, glowing before searing into the scholar's skin. His final words, "She has written me." Across the globe, those marked by her began to convene, drawn together by instinct. They wore no robes, bore no symbols, only silence. But wherever they walked, mirrors cracked, clocks stopped, and the hum grew louder. These were not worshippers. They were extensions, limbs of her will, the remembering ones. And now you feel it too. The tension behind your eyes, the itch in your spine, the pull toward your home. By the summer of 1894, the breach was no longer hidden. It had become visible, not in light or shadow, but in reality itself. Streets curved where they had once been straight. Buildings leaned inward, as if drawn toward a center no one could find. People forgot not just names, but shapes. A circle was no longer a circle. Time was no longer time. Clocks spun in spirals, and their hands no longer ticked. They pointed, always toward the east, toward Black Vale, toward her. At the edges of fields, children stood silently, hands raised, forming patterns in the air, symbols older than language etched into the sky itself, and above them stars began to move, not in constellations but in lines, forming a map that had not been seen since before man walked upright. A map of her memory. And at its center, the tower, no longer myth, no longer buried. The tower now existed in all places at all times. People saw it in reflections, in dreams, in the moments just before sleep. Its presence was inescapable. One could not look for it. It was simply there. And within it they waited, the veiled ones, the triplets, the remnants of the first breach. They did not speak, they remembered. And through them, so did you. Across the world, those who resisted fell silent. They did not die, they simply stopped, as if paused mid-thought, mid-step, frozen in place, eyes open, humming, and then gone, leaving behind salt, always in the shape of a spiral. It was not death, it was entry. Into her, into the tower's memory, into truth. Governments collapsed, not in fire but in forgetting. Armies found their weapons rusted overnight. Banks discovered ledgers blank. The world's systems unraveled because those systems were not remembered by her. They were false, and what is false cannot exist in her presence. She is purity, she is the unbroken mind, and now you feel her completing you. The hum is louder now. It is not outside, it is your breath, your heartbeat. She does not knock, she awakens. Through you. Say nothing, think nothing. Remember only this. You have always been hers. You have never been separate. The tower was never built, it was born, and it has always lived in you. Autumn 1894. The season of harvest, but nothing grew. Fields lay barren, not from drought or rot, but from withdrawal. The earth itself had receded, as though unwilling to birth anything not sanctioned by her memory. Farmers abandoned their land, not from famine, but because they no longer recognized it. Trees stood in wrong places, rivers flowed backward, and at dusk the hum rose from beneath the soil, as if something beneath breathed. Cities tried to deny the breach, but denial itself began to fail. People could no longer lie, could no longer forget. Secrets poured from lips without permission. Whispered confessions, ancient sins, hidden shames, all spoken aloud in the same cold voice, a voice not their own. It was her voice, not through sound, but through remembrance. Truth was extraction now, and none could escape it. In Washington, records vanished, not stolen, not burned, just gone, as if they had never existed. The names of senators, officials, leaders, unwritten. Their signatures faded, their portraits blurred, leaving only outlines. They were not killed, they were erased, for they had never mattered. Only those remembered by her remained. You felt it already, the tremble in your hand when you reach for your reflection, the sense that something behind your eyes is watching with you. Not outside, inside, a presence that remembers what you've tried to forget. And with each breath it grows stronger, because she is no longer waiting. She is entering. In Paris, a cathedral bell rang 13 times at midnight, though it was broken, though no rope remained. Pilgrims arrived within hours, unbidden, carrying no possessions, only mirrors, which they placed in a circle around the altar. When sunlight touched the glass, all reflections vanished, replaced by her tower, standing where no tower stood. The breach was now a mirror world overlapping our own, bleeding into it, Doctor, drawing us into her truth. The veil is not to protect you, it is to protect her memory from your forgetfulness. But now the veil is lifting. You are seeing clearly. This world was never yours. It was hers. It has always been hers. And now, she has remembered you. There is no more hiding, no more time, only return. Whisper it. She is here. Say it again. She is here. And through you, she awakens. Winter 1894. The first snow fell and did not melt. But it was not snow, it was salt, descending in silence, coating the earth in a layer of memory. No footprints remained, no paths endured. Every step vanished behind the walker, as if the world refused to remember movement. Travelers lost direction, not from poor maps, but because the land no longer recognized itself. Mountains stood where none had been. Oceans receded, and in the skies 3 moons appeared, perfectly aligned, veiled in mist, watching. The triplets, no longer visions, no longer myths. They had returned, not from elsewhere, but from within the breach, from within us all. Their presence was felt beneath the skin, a pulsing, a rhythm, a reminder. In a monastery near the Carpathians, monks uncovered a sealed chamber below the altar. Inside they found no relics, no bones, only a mirror, black as obsidian, cold to the touch. When light struck its surface, each man saw himself, aged, hollowed, kneeling before the tower. They collapsed in silence. When the villagers found them, their mouths were open, and in their throats, salt crystals formed the phrase, "I have remembered." And you are remembering now. Your skin prickles because it recognizes her. The hum in your spine is not sickness, it is alignment. She is tuning you to her frequency, the original resonance of mind before division, before identity, before separation. Governments tried one last time to erase her, to declare her a delusion, a plague of the mind. But their voices trembled. Their eyes glazed, their tongues refused to move, because they could not deny what she had written into them. Every symbol, every hum, every spiral, all encoded in flesh, your flesh. You do not believe, you know. She is not faith, she is certainty, and she is inside you now, in every thought, in every breath. The breach is not a door to close, it is a door to become, and you are becoming. Listen, hear the hum. That is not a sound. That is your true name, spoken by her, remembered through her. You are not reading this. You are awakening to this. There is no veil. There is only her reflection in you. And it is clear, January 1895. The final witnesses stopped speaking altogether, not from fear but from understanding. Language had become insufficient, a cage for minds now unbound. Words shattered under the weight of her presence. The hum now vibrated through structures, splitting stone, warping iron, bending will itself. In the cities, mirrors cracked, not from impact, but from the pressure of reflection. People saw not their own faces, but hers, veiled in shadow, lips unmoving, eyes without end. And then they vanished. Not in death, but in absorption. Their names forgotten, their voices erased, all that remained was salt. The breach had fully opened. Across the globe, time no longer synchronized. Hours repeated, days collapsed. Men woke to find the previous year repeating, but not as it was. Altered, rearranged, as if someone else remembered it differently. And that someone was her. In black veil, which now existed in all places simultaneously, the tower pulsed, not as stone, but as memory made manifest. Pilgrims no longer traveled, they simply appeared barefoot, veiled, eyes hollow. They did not speak, they did not need to. Their presence was her voice, and in every town they entered, the hum followed and resistance ended. You feel it now, the pull behind your eyes, the ache in your teeth. That is the breach adjusting you, aligning you to her frequency. You can resist, but resistance is remembering wrong, and she will not allow that, because she is purity. She is the first shape of thought. The tower is not a place, it is a state of being, and you are inside it now. You always were, you had simply forgotten. The triplets are no longer veiled. Their faces, now seen, are your face, your eyes, your mind. Because you were always part of her, part of the breach, part of the original memory. Say it now. I remember her. Say it again. I remember her. Feel it settle in your bones, your brain, your blood. There is no fear now. There is only return. The door was never shut. You are the door, and she is walking through you, into this world, into every world, forever. February 1895. Churches emptied, not from blasphemy, but from irrelevance. No prayer could reach her, because she was already inside the prayer, inside every word ever spoken in hope or fear. The faithful now knelt in circles, not facing altars but mirrors, placed upon the ground, reflecting only the sky, and in that sky, her tower, always rising, always watching. Clergy attempted exorcisms, But the names of saints dissolved on their tongues, replaced by her name, unspoken but felt, heavy and absolute. Scripture turned blank, holy water evaporated, and behind every closed door a humming began, synchronized across continents. It was not a plague. It was alignment. The breach had no borders, no need for permission. It simply was, and always had been. The tower pulsed now, not in one place but everywhere at once, in dreams, in breath, in the flicker of candlelight, and with every pulse the veil thinned, not torn but unwoven, revealing the original design. You feel it now, that design beneath your skin, the pattern of remembrance, the architecture of her will, and in that pattern your identity is a thread, pulled loose, rethreaded into her shape. In Russia, a man wandered from the woods carrying a book he had never seen. No cover, no pages, only salt blocks, pressed together, etched with symbols of the first breach. He wept salt tears, saying only, "She has remembered me." Then he collapsed, and where he lay, the earth hardened, forming a perfect spiral of stone, smooth and warm to the touch. Across the Atlantic, children born during the breach no longer cried. They hummed, eyes open, unblinking, as if remembering before breath. They did not learn language. They spoke in symbols drawn in ash, in dust, in air, and when asked their names, they answered in unison, "We are hers." There is no lineage now, no bloodline, only remnants of her return, manifest in every mind, ever eerie memory. You are no longer just a man. You are a vessel filled with her design, her knowing. The breach was not an event, it was a reawakening. And you are awake. Say it now. Say it without words. Let it vibrate through you. She is here. She is me. You have not been taken. You have been claimed. March 1895. Clocks ceased to function, not because they broke, but because time no longer agreed to move forward. It spiraled now, looping back upon itself, repeating moments until they aligned with her memory. People reported seeing the same stranger twice in 1 hour, or hearing their own voices before they spoke. Time had become pliable, reshaped by the breach, rewritten by her. The tower did not rise in height, it rose in presence. You saw it in the flicker of a flame, in the curve of a shell, in the arrangement of your veins. She was now embedded in form, in structure, in biology. Scientists attempted to measure the phenomena, but their instruments failed, showing only one number again and again, 14, the number of veiled figures in the tower, the number of missing days from every calendar that year, the number of you. Because you are not alone in this awakening. Across the world, others are feeling her within them. Dreams are no longer private. They have become communal rituals where minds gather beneath the tower, kneeling in salt, sharing the hum. No one teaches these rituals. They are remembered, and you remember them too, don't you? The feeling of kneeling, of folding your hands, of awaiting her touch. It was not learned. It was written into your breath. In the Americas, forests withered overnight, not from death, but because the memory of trees was taken back. In their place grew spirals of bone, towering and pale, humming with a frequency that emptied thought. Travelers who entered these forests returned different, eyes dim, voices gone, but carrying her symbols carved into their palms. They did not resist. They did not speak. They only waited. And you too are waiting. Though you don't know why. That stillness in your chest, that tremble in your fingers, it is the breach inside you, unfolding, revealing her design. You are not dying. You are becoming. Becca, oming her memory, made flesh, made mind. The tower does not rise toward heaven. It rises through you. You are its foundation. You are its voice. The breach is not coming. It is now. And now you must decide. Will you remember? Or will you be remembered by her? April 1895. Entire cities vanished. Not through fire, flood, or war, but through unremembering. Maps curled at their edges, erasing borders. Roads led to nowhere, or worse, led back to the same point again and again, like walking in a circle within a maze that has no center. People stood where buildings once stood, confused, holding keys to doors that no longer existed. The breach had no need for cities. It required only alignment. The tower stood now in every direction, and its shadow fell even in the dark, and when people looked up, they saw their own eyes, staring down from the tower's peak. She was reflecting them, rewriting them into her perfect symmetry. In the silence, one word echoed, not spoken aloud, but within every thought, as if the mind itself had been overwritten. Return. You have heard it, haven't you? That word, whispered not with sound, but in sensation, in the moment between waking and sleep, when the world feels not quite your own. That is her memory entering you, drawing you back to what you were before forgetting. In Cairo, archaeologists uncovered a tomb with no walls, no floor, just a pit of salt, and at its center, a mirror, upright, flawless, reflecting the tower. They dared not touch it. Those who looked into it vanished, leaving behind only their names carved in the air, fading slowly, like breath in winter. The breach had begun to consume narrative. No more stories, no more history, only her design. Truth no longer mattered, only the original memory, and that memory is hers. And now it is yours. You feel it growing inside, don't you? That knowledge that you were never outside the tower, that you never walked alone. The hum grows louder. It is your pulse. The salt in your blood carries her code, and in that code, your identity is a veil ready to fall. You can resist, but resistance is still part of her plan. She remembers your defiance. She signed it, because even your doubt leads you back to her. Say it now. I return to her. Again, I return to her. The breach is complete, and you are its final key. May 1895, the final month before the veil collapsed completely. What remained of governance, kings, presidents, councils held frantic meetings behind locked doors, not to plan salvation, but to delay the inevitable. For they too had heard the hum, had seen her tower reflected in their eyes, even when the mirrors were gone. One by one they fell silent, not through violence, but through remembrance. Each spoke the same phrase before vanishing into salt. She was before power, she is power. And then they were unwritten. Power as the world knew it no longer mattered, because all power was hers. The tower did not conquer by force. It absorbed through memory, through truth no one could deny. Entire nations awoke to find new symbols on their flags, symbols they could not name yet recognized in their bones. Spirals, eyes, mirrors, 14 points encircling a void. The breach had become law, and in the silence of these new laws, only one command remained: remember her. In the depths of the Pacific, sailors reported seeing an island that wasn't there before, formed entirely of bone-white stone, pulsing with the hum. They never returned. Their ship was found adrift, coated in salt, with no crew, only a single message carved into the mast: we remembered. And now you remember too, not in detail but in feeling. That shiver along your spine, the weight behind your eyes, that is not fear. That is recognition. You are not observing the breach. You are part of it. You were always meant to awaken now. Your birth was not a beginning. It was an echo of her first thought, and in you, that thought lives again. Look at your hands. They do not tremble. They hum. The spiral is beneath your skin, written in salt and time. You are the reflection. You are her mirror. Say it. I was born to remember her. Again. I was born to remember her. This is no longer history. This is return. The breach is not outside. It is within you. And now she walks again. Through your eyes, through your voice, through your memory. Forever. June 1895. The sun rose bloodless, pale and cold, casting no shadow. Because there were no more shadows to cast, light had become memory refracted through her will, and in that memory you stand revealed. Every sin, every secret, every forgotten choice. They do not condemn you. They complete you, for she remembers them all, not with judgment, but with precision. The breach has no morality, only order, her order. And in that order, your defiance, your obedience, your silence, they all served her return. In Jerusalem, the wailing wall began to hum, not from within, but from behind the stones, as if something pressed against them, trying to enter once more. Pilgrims gathered without knowing why. They did not pray, they did not kneel, they simply watched, eyes fixed on the wall, mouths open in silence. And then, salt, seeping from between the stones, forming her symbol on the ground, a spiral of 14 points, glowing faintly in the dusk. It was not defilement. It was reclamation. She was taking back what was always hers. The breach was never an invasion. It was a correction. You felt it, the world pulling inward, events folding over one another like pages written twice. That is her editing, her rewriting of history. Not to change it, but to perfect it. And now your memories begin to shift. That childhood dream, that shadow you thought was sleep paralysis, that voice in the quiet. They were not hallucinations, they were preparations. You have always been hers. She has awaited your awakening, and now it is complete. You do not sleep the same. You do not breathe the same. You are tuning to her frequency, aligning your pulse to the hum that guides all things. And in that hum, there is no fear, only certainty. Look around you. The signs are there, reflections that linger too long, mirrors that show more than just you, moments where time hesitates. That is the breach opening. Through you, you are the tower's foundation, the final key in her return to form. Whisper now, I am her vessel, I am her voice. Again, I am her vessel, I am her voice. The breach is no longer coming. It is here, and she has remembered you completely. July 1895. The stars shifted. Not in orbit, not in science, but in design. Constellations twisted into new patterns, patterns not catalogued, not charted, but felt. Eyes turned skyward, no longer saw myths or gods, but instructions. The sky had become a map of her will, a mirror of the tower's design. Astronomers, once certain, now stood silent before telescopes that refused to focus, lenses filled with salt, gears humming a note not meant for human ears. The stars were aligning, not for navigation, but for remembrance. The breach had extended beyond Earth, beyond flesh, into the fabric of the cosmos. You feel it now, a pressure in your chest when you look at the night sky, a sense that something watches, something old, something inevitable. That is not dread, that is recognition. She is not bound by Earth, she is written into creation itself. In Rome, beneath the Vatican archives, a locked vault opened on its own. Inside was not a relic, not a book, but a mirror, wrapped in cloth that bled salt. Cardinals fled, but those who remained saw themselves as they were before identity. Not men, not sinners, just reflections of her will, unfinished, now completed in that moment of true sight. You are approaching that sight. Each breath brings you closer. Your name, once yours, now vibrates with hers. Speak it aloud. It feels hollow, doesn't it? That's because it is being replaced, overwritten by her memory. The breach does not steal, it remembers correctly, and you are being corrected. In the Americas, a river ran dry overnight, revealing stone ruins never before seen, their walls carved not by tools, but by thought, by hum. Travelers collapsed at the banks, eyes fixed, whispering, "She rises through water, through breath, through us, and now through you." The breach is no longer myth, it is your breath, your skin, your vision. Your mind is no longer your own, it is hers, and she has reclaimed you. Whisper now, I see through her eyes, I rise in her name. Again, I see through her eyes, I rise in her name. The tower is within you, and you are no longer a man. You are her awakening. August 1895. The seas stilled. Not from calm, but from submission. Tides no longer answered the moon. They answered her. Ships halted mid-voyage, unable to move forward or return. Mariners wept, not from fear, but from knowing. The waters, once their domain, now belonged to her memory. Beneath the surface, the breach extended, a network of veins, pulsing salt and hum through every ocean, threading the earth in her perfect symmetry. Divers sent below did not return. Their tethers pulled taut, then slack, retrieved coated in salt, with no body, only a mirror shard at the end, etched with her symbol. She was no longer returning. She had arrived. And the world did not resist. It yielded. You feel it, the air thick with her presence, your dreams no longer dreams, but instructions. Your reflection is shifting, isn't it? It holds something else, something watching you from behind your own eyes. That is her gaze, peering through your form, shaping your thoughts into alignment. Do not fight it. You were never meant to. In Istanbul, an ancient scroll long sealed within the Hagia Sophia unfurled without touch, revealing not words but images, spirals, eyes, towers of salt, and at the center a woman veiled, arms open, welcoming the breach. Witnesses to the event forgot their names, speaking only one phrase: "She has returned. We are complete." And you are nearing that completion. Each heartbeat hums with her pulse, each breath echoes her memory. The world is no longer turning, it is aligning. And you are the final alignment. Look in the mirror, hold your gaze. The face you see is not yours, it is hers, reflected. And you feel it, the urge to kneel, to hum, to remember fully. Whisper now, her memory is mine. I was never separate, again. Her memory is mine. I was never separate. The breach breathes through you. The tower rises within you, and you are no longer becoming. You have become. September 1895. The final veil fractured. All that remained was sight, not through eyes, but through her design, now fully alive within you. Language unraveled, not forgotten, dissolved. People spoke not in words, but in vibration, in hums that resonated perfectly in tune, like voices woven into a single consciousness. Across the earth, mirrors cracked, their fragments vanishing into dust. You could no longer see yourself as you once were, because you were no longer that man. The breach had finished its work. You are rebuilt, in salt, in sound, in memory. In Paris, the Eiffel Tower turned to glass, transparent, humming with her frequency, revealing inside it thousands of figures, kneeling, veiled, unseen by the naked eye. The structure was never steel. It had always been hers, waiting for the breach to reveal its true form. Governments ceased to function. No declarations, no panic, only silence. And in that silence, the hum of surrender. The world had ceased to resist, not because of defeat, but because of remembrance. You feel that same surrender, don't you? It's not weakness, it's completion. You are no longer outside the tower, you are its core. Everything before this moment was preparation, ritual, awakening. Now you are awake, fully, eternally, hers. Say it. I am the tower. I am the breach. I am remembered. Again. I am the tower. I am the breach. I am remembered. You do not breathe alone. You do not think alone. Her voice hums within every cell, guiding your final transformation. The breach is whole, the world is whole, and you are her final form made flesh. One step remains, one breath, one hum, and then forever.